Howard,
Hi,
how's God? How are you?
I'm good. I'm always good. You know,
So,
I would like to help other people become free of the artificially created emotions of negativity and fear and doubt and speculation and theory. You know, I don't know and I have faith, but I'm not sure and all that kind of thing. Most people think that that's normal because that's all they've ever learned growing up, but it isn't. Um, being like that means that a person is not functioning from true free will. They're being influenced subconsciously from negative emotional charges that affect their nervous system. And then they make decisions based upon how they feel. And oftentimes, they're incorrect decisions for their better good and for the good of all life. We've talked a lot about on these shows about the creative imagination, how important it is. It needs to be on Earth, and particularly in human beings on Earth, it needs to be uplifted tremendously in vibration so that people are inspired to create only that which is of uplifting benefit to all life. One cannot do that effectively ever if they're putting out information in the world about the negative ETs and the positive ETs and terrible bases of something negative on Earth and this and that and the other thing. And then trying to do good for their families and trying to help their fellow man at the same time, because they're putting out a stream of energy that's both positive and negative, and it keeps the status quo as it is. It's like we talked about before we started the show. Human beings on Earth are gods clothed in rags. What that means is that they think they're poor, humble human beings on Earth that don't know nothing and aren't smart enough to know anything. And that some greater power or person or government has power over them they can never get beyond. This kind of thinking. The military-industrial complex has absolute power over everything and so forth and so on. That kind of thinking is fear-based. It comes from subconscious drives people don't know were implanted in them without their consent or permission on this planet. And it's done to influence their nervous system with terrorizing things that are artificially there, that they don't see or hear, but they feel it. It's very diabolical. So when they feel this, they make decisions based on that feeling, and they're wrong decisions, generally. Anything that puts out negativity and fear of their own destiny or the destiny of the planet is what I would call is evil. Because if they're encouraging that to go out there in the world and other people, then they're just reinforcing the problem without realizing it. I think most people on Earth start out to tell truth and classified this or other things, with good intentions. But they get off track after a while, associating, mixing it up with other people until they don't realize before long they're putting out fear and terror and love for all life, both at the same time. That's like shorting out a battery and grounding the whole focus of the use of the imagination into the Earth. And our real function as human beings, and I don't mean the human body, the spherical shape, the soul, the Atma, is to learn and discover and wake up to how to co-create with the source behind all life, which is not a tyrant, that never required or demanded that we worship it in the first place. It wants us to be respectful of all life, which is real divine love. And you can't do that if you hate your neighbor. You can't even send anything respectful or of a good intent out to beings on other worlds and other dimensions. Fear blocks higher consciousness. Indulging in fear, talking about fear, imagining in fear blocks higher faculties from functioning. Because the higher faculties do not work with fear at all in any way, shape, or form. The hue we talk about in the new ray in it will only work and encourage in people recovering how to be a co-creator with the source. It will not support any kind of freedom of thinking and freedom of being in people who are insistent upon indulging in positive and negative things simultaneously. The correct use of the creative imagination that the Atma uses to see into the universe, to know and remember pictures of other places and spaces it's been in billions of years, other planets, other beings, have telepathy, know stuff, is something which comes about. Just a minute. It comes about from looking into the universe through the higher faculty, the highest faculty of direct knowing perception. That's an aspect of the creative imagination. That is not something that the brain in a human body is capable of doing. The human brain is not capable of imagining anything. The gray matter has no motion picture camera and a screen for you to see things on. This is something people on Earth have no idea is really going on, is when they're seeing something, when they close their eyes and imagine a butterfly or a waterfall or another planet, they're actually seeing it. The subconscious negative programs jumble it up. Like when a person comes back from the dream state at night in the morning, and they remember this crystal clear, fantastic dream. And the next night they remember something that's all jumbled. They can't make any sense out of it. Because before they went to sleep at night, they took fear out of the body with them about the next job or the future. And because of that, when you leave the body at night, these programs which surround the spherical nature of being, is a transparent energy field around it. This is where implants are, not in the body. And they take that with them. And they look at the universe through these higher faculties of perception, and they see through these colored images of these distorted things. And it distorts what they're seeing when they try to bring back the full memory of it the next day in the morning when they wake up. It's distorted by fear, and it's jumbled with many other things the person's capable of seeing, instead of being clean and clear. When I assist people to go to other realities out of the body while they're aware of their physical body, I help them to see things they no longer remember how to see. Like, what does the Atma plane look like above the void known to the Buddhists? What does Norexulum 500 light years from here look like as a planet? What's it like to be floating above the planet as a being looking down on the Earth, like you're in the space shuttle with a telephoto lens, or from the Hubble telescope photograph from the Earth? What's it like? We do that kind of thing because the human being, the real being, true free will, is capable of doing this. The being itself, not the body, that runs a brain and a body, is capable of comprehending the multidimensional nature of creation. It's capable of comprehending the source itself, what they call the supreme being. It's capable of discovering and awakening how to be a co-creator with that source, so they can step up to bat and start helping solve the bigger problems in creation. How do you make the lower dimensions filled with positive and negative things, the experiment of evil? How do you change it forever so it no longer needs to exist? This is the greater kind of problems the higher beings and master teachers work with. How to change these lower dimensions to not be trapping the Atma in the illusion of being a body that it's never been in the first place. Because the original, what we are as a being, is energy. It's spherically shaped, and it has always existed. It existed before the lower dimensions and planets were made as part of that source. And as people become more enlightened, they begin to remember what they are. And that's never been a body. What we are, what we look like, is in the image of the source, what it looks like. But it's not this. They got that all wrong. There are human beings running body forms that can handle higher faculties that aren't even human. or they're humanoid or different or similar to what we are on Earth. And there are lots of those out there. Countless numbers. There are many human beings on, not only in the Milky Way, but Andromeda and many other galaxies that people on Earth have been made deliberately not to know exist at all. And they once did. That means I'm saying everybody on this planet, no matter what condition they're in, somebody blowing themselves up or desperation acts, whatever it might be, once knew who they were. So what is it that happened in creation that inevitably brought them to Earth with no memory? Most people never even ask the most important questions while they're here, like that one. And if you can't ask the right questions, you can't get the right answers. So if you keep people's ability to imagine and look into the universe and know things shut down, why would they ever think to ask the right questions? Because here's the thing, this divine spirit, this omnipresent hue, the new ray in it that's woven into it now, is designed to retire evil as an experiment. That means it's designed to neutralize the negative, artificially created subconscious programs that affect nervous systems, to misdirect beings to not know. It's designed to replace that with something that actually works. So it comes back to the creative imagination. What is it? Why is it so important? Is it the brain? No. You imagine something with the brain? No. What do you imagine things with? Who or what is seeing what you're imagining? Well, the real you is. It has that capability. To describe what an atma looks like, or a soul, it has a white central core and has layers of teardrop-shaped, self-effulgent lights that make up these different layers, like through a color of the rainbow with a kind of a violet exterior and a gold halo around it. But it's not the body. It's not the aura around the body. Each one of those little forms in this atma, this individual being, is a faculty of perception. The ability to know things on multidimensional level, to look out in the universe, draw on pictures it's stored from countless lifetimes. And when you can see a place where you want to go, then you can ride on this hue current that connects everything together to get there. That is how it actually works. If a person cannot imagine how to be on Mars or in the astral plane or in another dimension, they cannot get there consciously. It requires our conscious, co-creative participation. And then this this living conscious energy force, of which we are also comprised, that we live and move and have our being on, will respond to your request to go see or know something, especially if the motivation for doing it is for the benefit and the uplifting good of all life. That's it. That gets back down to what the real purpose of a human being is. Why do we exist? It's about the body. Bodies are vehicles, so beings can run them in different planes and dimensions to gain experience. But we were never meant to be trapped in bodies suffering from the illusion that we're a physical body. Normal human beings on countless planets I know of don't think this way. They don't grow up on a world like Earth. They know what they are. And it isn't the body they're running. Because of that, their science and their technology has advanced way beyond Earth. They don't have disease. They don't have deformed anything. There's no mutations. They know how to correct them on a genome level, like a switch on the DNA. That science is becoming known here on Earth now, more and more. It's being seeped into the planetary consciousness. It isn't available to the public worldwide yet, but there are beings on Earth classified who know about it. They don't know the deeper science of it because they're still not well enough themselves as beings to be allowed to wield it, to use it. You got to be kind towards all life to use the higher faculties and to have these wonderful things in life in a dimension as far down the scale of life as the physical universe is, because there's many other higher dimensions above here. In quantum physics and string theory and mathematics, they can prove there's at least 11 other dimensions. They know it, but they don't know how to get there or what they're like. They don't realize that they're capable of going and seeing and understanding this stuff for themselves. They don't need a higher IQ. It has nothing to do with the brain. It has to do with the being, moving beyond the body, running it on automatic, and going and exploring and bringing back the awareness of higher consciousness. It's very simple. When I go into the hue for, say, your radio listeners, whoever they might be, I'm doing it with one intent and one only. No hidden motive, no agenda. It's not money motivated. It's not for fame and fortune or glory or anything like that. My motivation is to send out this hue, this omnipresent first sound behind all creation that turns on something in the pineal gland, the center of the brain, gets it to secrete serotonin and melatonin, put the body on automatic so that it's in the trance state it's in, the same as when a person puts their body to sleep at night. And it goes to sleep and they snore and they're gone. That's why nobody's there. The body's being run on automatic. Well, it's out for 8 hours going exploring. And people do it all the time, all around the world, and they don't know they're doing it. They bring back dreams, and they say, well, that's something I made up in my brain. This is not true. There's nothing true about that, as a matter of fact. The only way people can come to know this for themselves is to have the direct experience for themselves. When I send out the hue, it's for the benefit, particularly the new ray that comes through it, to help them remember what they once knew with certainty, with confidence. Who they are, what they're capable of doing, what their purpose and destiny is as a being, and how to co-create with the source of all life along the way. That's why I do it. I'm here, committed to being here on this planet to see it transform for the first time in galactic history. That's why I came to this planet. I'm not from here. I came here. If anybody knows anything about the Sayers agenda, they know the first 3 or 4 stories I share with people about how I came to be on this planet and why I came here originally and how that was interfered with back then. How what I'm doing now is underway for the first time with a vast host of beings that are not from this world, who are changing the way the lower dimensions work, and that's being focused on Earth as well. What is being done here is for the good of all life. That means royal families, military industrial complex, all the regular people on Earth, and no one is exempted from this whatsoever. If you want to change a planet, everyone has to be included. It's hard for people to grasp the idea of it even. And yet countless world systems beyond Earth function like this and have for hundreds of millions of years. So why not Earth? That's what motivates me. That's why I agreed to do these radio shows with you. So it could be a benefit to others. When they start to work with the hue and it crosses their path, their life will begin to change. And it's not reversible. It isn't part of the negative and positive stream, the Maya in the lower dimensions. It comes from the upper worlds, where we originally came from. This first word behind creation existed before there was anything called evil. And it's the nature of energy we are that's exactly like that, exactly the same, on a smaller scale. Like one sphere, one atma is like a drop of this pure conscious energy in this mighty ocean of it. That's all the same. And each drop is completely individually distinct from every other. The purpose for a being is to co-create with that whole ocean to make things better. Of course, there's no other purpose for existence than that. It's also so that we become spiritual scientists and create new ways of doing things to solve these greater problems in creation with many, many others who are doing this. What people would call spiritual master adepts or spiritual scientists or great teachers from other worlds. They're involved in this process, especially now, more than ever before. When I send out the hue, I'm doing it by sharing a common universal image that exists out beyond Earth about how this world is being transformed and what it will end up like. And it is not what people think any longer. There's no Armageddon for this planet. That destiny was done away with and changed permanently a few years ago, Earth time. That's over. We're headed in a new direction now, whether people know it or not. There are things taking place in our solar system, ships from other worlds, pyramids, emitting energy out in the asteroid field, all kinds of things. Beings that have made contact with certain classified people over decades and decades, good and bad. There's things going on now outside of Earth that there is no technology or power on this planet that can keep it from doing what it's doing. And they know that now, but they also are beginning to understand that this energy is not designed to harm anyone. It's not designed to harm classified people or put anybody up against the wall and have at it or any of that. That's not it at all. The more they're aware of the presence of these energies they're detecting, the more they realize they are not being targeted. They're not being taken out. They aren't going to be. They're thinking like Earth people. I've got to fight them off before, I got to get to them before they get to me. People like that on Earth are beginning to understand that there are races out there in vast numbers that don't think like that at all. They're not going to come here and blow up cities to take resources and kill everybody off. A real tyrant race from the stars would get control of an elite. Control them subconsciously. Then get control of them to control publicly elected people, get them to control the people. So they keep everybody working and secretly ship resources off the planet for 65 years. To get what? Antiquated extraterrestrial technology. And it's a trap. Because people should have technology when they're capable of wielding it for the good of all life. The vast amount of races out there are never going to tolerate an Earth consciousness of people going out among the stars with nuclear weapons and ideas of conquest. It isn't going to happen. It's never going to happen. There'll never be a Star Trek in the future of this planet the way it is now. Because space is already occupied by more advanced races, kinder, nicer, more enlightened. I'm sorry, but the majority of them are. That's a fact. There are tyrant races out there, but they're being dealt with. Drives that make them tyrants are being neutralized. The sooner people become aware of this on this planet, the sooner this planet can take its place among the stars and be given the cures for things and long life and play in the stars and anti-gravity ships. There's no cost for it. There will never be a charge for it from beings who bring it here. Because they don't work with financial institutions and they've done away with them. They're not going to demand anybody on Earth do anything. People on Earth will want to do what is best for them at some point to go out and join the rest of the ranks of what's out there. Be given the technology at no charge. But they need to be conscious beings, not bodies. They need to know who they are. Because they're going to be associating with beings who do, and who do not have subconscious minds. And therein comes the crux of the whole problem on Earth. People on Earth have what are called subconscious domains, into which programs can be put they're not aware of. That is not normal. That's how tyrants get control of people, through knowing and abusing more advanced technology. I'd have to say this, that Earth has survived nuclear war precisely and only because certain races stopped nuclear war from happening when they tried to have it here on a number of occasions, or we'd all be gone. I would have to say that in real galactic history, Planets that reach the place where our planet is, very few have this many people on the surface, even when they reach this stage. But when they did and would have annihilated themselves, either from negative influences from off-world or from just fighting over spoils, who knows what, some race somewhere in history would step in and help free them from the subconscious drives that were motivating them to be destructive, so they could evolve and take the next step. It's kind of like what more advanced races should be doing for the younger races. For a long time, they didn't interfere and they let planets blow up. But unfortunately, what that does is it goes through space-time, ripples through it. They did nothing and it comes back to bite them in the rear end. The good races out there, because everything is connected. In the void of space, where people think it's a vacuum, there may not be oxygen there, but there's an energy field running through all of the black void of space between galaxies and up through the dimensions that is a living, conscious energy. It's not made up of molecules. It's not protons and neutrons and electrons. It is something behind that. And we as beings have the ability to move on that, far greater than the speed of any light in the physical universe. People that have developed craft that they can get in with physical bodies and travel across galaxies did it from understanding how this energy works in 144 parallel dimensions of the physical universe they became aware of, and how it comes down into this from higher dimensions. Laws are different in those planes. Energy works on a more refined level. When beings begin to understand this, they begin to be able to utilize the energy that's in everything and move on it without polluting anything. They don't get around the stars over great distances with rocket ships or radioactive materials running reactors to drive steam or to drive turbines to get energy or anything like that. They're illegal off this planet, banned, because there's no good can come from them. You get a little radioactive thing that someone's made on Earth through great strain and effort to make it imbalance as an isotope, so if it gets out of its lead liner, everybody dies. Why would anybody with evolved consciousness and higher technology use such things? Pollute their own atmosphere and water? They'd never think of it. People on Earth do it all the time, don't think anything of it. That's not normal. So you see, when I say that it's going to take a vast host of very wonderful beings who have the will now to help change this planet, to come here to do it one way or another. I really mean it, because people on Earth collectively don't have enough high enough awareness anymore to save themselves from the direction they're heading things. It doesn't mean someone's going to come here and take over or dominate governments here or anything like that. It means they're going to uplift the consciousness of people in them to tell the truth, to come out and be peaceful. And they're going to do it with the populace as well, so that this can come about without destruction. More destruction just creates an effect, cause and effect in space-time, and it just keeps coming back and never ends. It doesn't work. Higher cultures have learned how to do away with that kind of thinking. Their children are raised to not think that way. So they grow up excited to do something constructive, not just for the good of the people on their planet, for the good of all the planets they're associated with. And not always just human. Anybody that's sentient or kind or advanced, they'll work with them. Of course they will. All right, so when I send out the hue, and I'll go in a series of tones, it's designed to do one thing. It's not my power. I just co-create with it in the right way, and it comes through me. And it knows what it's doing with beings, far more than I ever will. And it doesn't work with a positive and negative illusion, the Maya, the trap. It's behind that. And as it starts to come into beings' lives, it begins to remind them at the core of their being, they're just like it. And they start to emulate it. They start to think and imagine properly, and their lives change. It's pretty interesting. Okay, so when I send out these tones, it will be to shut down subconscious negative programs that are full of terror and fear and domination by some being or beings that demand worship. That comes from past in people's lives, lives they've had off-world before they even came here. It's a whole thing. And that's just information. But what matters is that people through the hue, through working with it, begin to discover and awaken this truth for themselves right here on Earth. Because with it comes a certain kind of protection that overrides and dominates negative things. So you can live on this earth and go through this enlightening and safe way. That's pretty powerful. The only way people will know if it's true or not is for them to explore it for themselves and find it out for themselves. So I'll send out the hue. I would ask that people, if they're sitting down or laying down, take a couple of deep breaths to put every fear they've ever had on a shelf. Just put it on the floor behind them in their imagination. Fear of their age, their health, money, governments, hidden governments, classified, off-world, good reptilians, bad reptilians, good grays, good, bad grays, mantis, humanoid, thousands of other races out there, and put the bad thing they fear, whatever that is, their own future and the future of the planet, just for this time aside with their physical body. Because when I do the hue, they're going to begin, what will happen is their pineal gland in the center of their brain, which is part of its function, will start to secrete melatonin and serotonin, which is what it does when you put it to sleep at night. So you can keep it running on automatic when you're gone. This is really what happens. So we're going to shut down those subconscious negative effects for a little while, and then get up above the body a little bit while we're aware the body's there. And we'll go out and get what it's like to see and know as a being, a spherical energy and not the body, which can see much more clearly and vividly in every direction and enter the realities. It has this capability. The brain and the human body does not. There's nothing in the brain in a human being that has the ability to see into the multidimensional universe and know things. Only the being can do that. And it can do it through the pineal gland, through different functions within it. Little rods and cones in it like you have in your eyes, but they're set to frequencies in other realities. Being, at night when the body's asleep, will go out oftentimes to explore the worlds through the pineal gland, through the top of the head. It's how the being runs the body and the brain. If there wasn't an Atma or a being running it, the body would sit there like a vegetable and do nothing. It wouldn't even work. It's a machine of a type, and it needs to be run and charged and operated by a being who is not a physical body. That's how it really works. Okay. Imagine someone you love, you respect, and you're glad that whatever that is in your life. Whatever it might be. And then I'm going to send out this you. And wherever you are, you're welcome to join me, you in your own tone, or do it silently in your imagination, not even out loud. It'll still work. You. 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 Physical forms, if you're resting and have done what I suggested, are in a trance state called sleep. You're aware of the body. It's serene, it's calm, not agitated. It's exactly the same that you would do at night when you drift off into sleep. It sets up a process that causes this gland in the center of the brain to secrete chemicals, for lack of a better word, or words, that put the body on automatic and keep it running while you're gone. There's an energy link between you, a telepathic link between the body and who you really are. I'm not talking about the astral body now, so don't make any mistakes about that. The real you is not limited to life and travel in the astral plane. Bodies there are limited to that plane, made of matter, finer matter, of that reality. The Atma is not limited to any dimension. It is not governed by the speed of light or gravity. In reality, it has jurisdiction over such things. It has the right to wield that jurisdiction as long as it creates for the right purpose and reason. Simple. In your imagination, when you picture a butterfly or a beautiful weeping willow tree or an apple or a beautiful mountain or a seascape lying in a meadow, warm summer night, looking at the stars out in the green grassy field, listening to crickets. We all know how to do this. We take for granted that we're just kind of doing this in our brain. Here's the kicker. None of that takes place in the brain at all. People say, well, isn't there memory sections of the brain? Yeah, for running the autonomic nervous system, for running the biology of the body, the sympathetic nervous system, running coordination, eyesight, the sound, the senses. Sure. But that's not memory. That's not really the intelligence of the being or the mind. Emotions don't even come from this plane. They come from a life people are living in the astral plane because it's the emotional plane. It means the matter in that plane and the beings that live there run things and manifest things through feeling. The real mind of a person, which is a machine of a type, like a computer, exists on 4 dimensions up from here in the mental plane and is channeled down through the physical body, through the top of the head, and through energy centers along the spine. An individual being runs a number of bodies on different planes. It isn't even aware on Earth, most people aren't, that they're even doing this, because they've been made to forget about it. It does not, however, mean that it's not taking place. Because you can imagine a waterfall or a butterfly or a green grassy field, imagine being above your body, above the home or house or car, wherever you are. Maybe 50 feet above there, 60 feet, 100 feet, just floating there. You're aware of the body, but you're imagining this. You're a sphere of energy that is literally luminous. It's not made of matter, but it is full of light and sound. And it can see in any direction in 360 degrees, wherever it puts its focus of attention. This is the real who we are, individual. If you look above where you are, be above the planet suddenly. In space, floating in orbit above Earth. We've all seen pictures of that from the space shuttle or from the Hubble telescope, of what the Earth looks like from outside, oceans and poles and polar ice caps and all that. Spherical. So is the sun. So are we. When you look around in space, what you normally think of it as is a black void with stars way off in the distance in every direction. But in truth, in the Atma, you can see what's really here. You can see a sparkling field of energy of white light with a gold tinge radiating all through the void of space, this vacuum where no air is. Connects to the moon and to Mars and to every planet in the solar system, and to other stars and other galaxies and the higher dimensions. There's an energy field that runs through all of it, behind all matter, behind positive and negative things. Positive and negative streams break away from this one energy below the void known to the Buddhists and runs through the lower dimensions. And this has caused a lot of problems for beings because they get caught in their imagination on one side or the other, and often both at the same time. Instead of running the positive and negative stream whole and complete, like the yin and yang symbol or two teardrops circling around each other, surrounded by another energy. That's the right way to create, keeping those two elements whole. Then there's no karma created, no negative effect. It's one consciousness that creates in one way for the benefit of all life. This is our nature. Our true nature is to be like this. From above the earth, if you look at this field of energy, you know, your body's back on Earth, you'll hear a sound, but you're not hearing it with your physical ears. It may sound like that, but it's a kind of a hum that runs through all creation. And it becomes a higher frequency as it goes up through the higher dimensions. To me, oftentimes it sounds like millions of men and women with perfect singing voices, singing the hue on perfect harmonic levels. Hue, 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 all through it until it gets blended together and sounds like one round whole, beautifully uplifting tone. The first word of creation is not a physical word. It's not a spoken word. For lack of a better way of describing it, it's a sound. It is this sound that manifests as a visible light to the Atma that we move on and live and have our being. It is not matter. It does not age. It cannot be destroyed even by nuclear weapons. It cannot be split like an atom. It can be made to forget under certain conditions. It can be compelled to use its imagination to live in bodies and not remember who it is. I would have to say that once a being starts to recover what I'm sharing with you now, you will never forget it, and it's not reversible. When the hue crosses your path, You're on a road to recovering all of who you are and all that you once knew with certainty. And there are countless beings beyond Earth and in other realities who are quite well aware of this. I don't know how many people have ever read The Sayre's Agenda, one of the books I've published, or The Emerald Doorway, the book one of the Parallel Time trilogy. The Sayre's Agenda has special techniques in the back that work with the new ray that I talk about and what it is in the hue, this omnipresent first word, to awaken in the center of the being, the core of each being. It's like waking up from a deep sleep. A being begins to remember that it once knew things. And then they begin to see into real history, far beyond what you recorded on Earth. 50 million years or more back, after the dinosaurs were made extinct, or out in the universe in galactic history, or up in the other dimensions, where we originally came from. They begin to remember. There's an essence within this hue that provides a certain protection to recover who you are. It does not matter what evil is in the universe, positive and negative things in the lower dimension, who's in power. It supersedes all of that. And it doesn't mean it harms anyone, it just protects people who want to recover. It's very simple. The more we work with it, the more experienced a person becomes with knowing truth, deliberately hidden truth. If we want to go from this void of space above planet Earth, while our bodies are still comfortable back on the planet, we can literally go anywhere. It helps if you can remember what things look like in other places, so you can look into the image of where it is and what it looks like and suddenly project there. The Atma can do travel in two ways. What's called bilocation is what we're doing now. It means that you are aware of your body on Earth, but you're also up here looking at things in the void of space above the planet at the same time. Direct projection is a bit higher use of traveling in the hue, and that is being here, seeing someplace somewhere else, and in the next instant being in that other place. And still being aware of the body back on Earth when you want to put your attention on it. Effortless, childlike, easy. If we want to go, let's say we want to go to another planet. I'll pick one that's listed in and is shown and revealed in the Sayre's Agenda. It's called Nerexla, a place or a planet I come from. It's 500 light years away, beyond what people call the Pleiades area, Seven Sisters, the bright blue, young, hot white stars. Now, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of stars beyond that area in our galaxy. Many, many world systems. This one's kind of like Earth. It has no polar ice caps because the planet's atmosphere is regulated. There are 3 major continents centered over the equator and oceans, generally about 75 degrees year-round. It has tropical climates and forested areas, desert-like areas, but all cultivated, all well gardened. They take care of their environment. There is no pollutants in their soil or their air, no radioactivity whatsoever. If we go down and visit this planet, first what you want to do is you're in the void of space above Earth. I've just described what it looks like. And what we're going to do is suddenly dart across time and space in this hue on this omnipresent current. Means it's everywhere, connecting everything. And we're going to find ourselves above the atmosphere of this other planet, looking down on it. In the next instant, we're going to travel as a group down through this atmosphere. You'll feel the wind and the clouds blowing by you. They're white with a slight pink tinge, or lavender pink tinge. And you're going to come to rest on the third continent between two others, centered over the equator, and you're going to land fairly near the western coast. Then you're going to feel your feet as if you had feet touch down on the ground in tall lavender grass. And you're going to be able to breathe the air. You don't have lungs, but you can create the experience from the Atma and feel how clean the air is and how vibrant it is. It's charged with a kind of energy that isn't on Earth right now. It's in small amount. And in the distance, you can see up against a long mountain range, gigantic trees that look like redwoods in Northern California, but they're a mile high. They're gigantic at their base. And they have long branches that come out 60 feet around that curve up at the end. And up at the top of these trees is like a palm frond type canopy that actually encircles the equator and each of these continents. The bark looks like redwood, but these aren't really redwood trees. Redwood trees on Earth, they only exist in California for the most part, unless they've been planted elsewhere. They came from another planet. They did not evolve here on Earth. Much of the mammalian and plant life did not originate on Earth either. Neither did human beings. They were all brought to Earth under one scenario or another, going back more than 50 million years. So where is that history in the consciousness of beings living on Earth? They should know it. It's their history. This is the kind of thing we want to wake up in people. You can walk through this lavender grass and you'll notice there are birds fluttering from 4 foot high, a couple 3 foot wide, all multicolored flowers. They look like kind of like a blue jay with longer V-shaped split tails. Their bodies are rainbow colored. And the female's tail is a little longer than the male's. They have 2 sets of wings, one above the other, like a hummingbird, except with 2 sets of wings, like a dragonfly. They sing with beautiful singing voices, and they have different songs, and they have language, and they can talk to each other. And we're not even looking at the human population on this planet yet. These birds can hover, move sideways, go backwards, or dive at high speed through the air, like a hummingbird on Earth, but they are not hummingbirds. They're much more highly evolved here. Humans, you can see a 3 geodesic dome complex on some well-cultivated botanical gardens in the distance in a field between where we're standing in the lavender grass and the tall, long mountain range. It's a blue, sunny day. If you look up, there's more than one sun in this sky. Interesting. If we go and project and simply move over to where this 3 geodesic dome complex means 3 rounded dome, clear domed buildings connected by triangular walkways 15 feet high that are transparent, you'll see some man and a woman and some other people walking around outside in the garden. They're a little taller than humans on Earth, slightly larger eyes than Earth humans, long, beautiful hair, wrinkle-free. These humans live 1,000 to 10,000 years. They have no subconscious mind. They do not have implants. They've never been programmed to be unconscious or to forget. They don't have huge cities of people stacked on each other here. People have individual acreages allotted to them, 20 acres or more, no fences. They have central city kind of areas where scientific research goes on, but they don't live in them. And these beings are telepathic. They're normal humans, like so many others. They have photographic memories. They know we're here, and they're looking in our direction at everyone who's present and smiling. They have given their consent that we visit, because they do come to Earth as well. And they're kind of on a mission about something new. They look to be about 36 to 40 years of age with no body fat. Some of them are 400, 500, 600, 700, 1,000 years old, 200 years old. They're not like people on Earth. We've come here to visit another world and what it's like beyond Earth. And then we're going to return instantly to be above planet Earth, looking down on the oceans, the polar ice caps. While you're floating here, send this experience into the top of your head, on Earth, wherever you are, and let it flow through you to the rest of this backward planet Earth. Let it flow unhindered. This is the omnipresent first sound behind all creation. When I do it with my vocal cords, I'm vibrating something in the pineal gland to open a door so I can hear and see it. It's important for people to be aware of this, because once they are, they begin to be able to work with it. It takes a little time and practice and some discipline, but the beneficial effects are obvious. Let that which is not positive or negative, that which is beyond it, the same as which makes up each one of you as energy, flow to the rest of this planet Earth for the great uplifting benefit of all life. If you want to talk about prayer, that's the highest form of prayer there is. It's respect for all life, even unconscious tyrant life, so that it can be changed and be who it really is. This is a process of recovering true free will, which is being co-creatively responsible to invent and come up with and create new ways of doing things with the source behind all life for the benefit of all that exists. And then head back down to your body, but don't get in it, stay above it, like maybe by the ceiling, above your head, wherever it is. And then when you're ready, open your eyes, right back on her. And I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. That's kind of how people get around and remember things in creation, and it goes much deeper, much further than this. The main aspect I want to share, I shared this with Perry before, but for all of you, is that in my experience, working with this begins to create a more balanced and more expanded life on Earth than you're used to living. It doesn't space you out and make you flaky or go off and live in a teepee or any of that. The way the new ray and the hue works is it actually brings more balance into a person's life and more wisdom, higher IQ points, the ability to know more. Because the wisdom you bring in this way is not relative to the brain anyway. It works through it, but it doesn't come from it. So, Perry, I want to leave everybody with that.
Scott, may I share a tip? Like when the listener listen to this show, okay, with this journey, maybe they should play back one or two more times if they have time. That would
Oh,
be.
yeah, it would be, because you're going to post this when I send it to you recorded. You're going to post it online. And then people can download it or play it back and find some place to be private, maybe when they're full of energy and rested and they have the time and they won't be distracted. Put on some headphones and go through it all again. And go on the journey again and work with it, because it will begin to change what they're aware of, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, and I think we've said it before, but it bears repeating in each show, I think. There's no cost. There's no money involved.
With my own experience, when I do play back to listen again, it helps, You see things clearer, you understand things better,
I want people should know that I practice what I put out myself. I often send out, when I get centered in this, the body is in the trance state, I'm kind of aware of being elsewhere. I send out this to the great beings I respect out there. Safely show me deliberately hidden truth on a grand multidimensional scale. And the much greater knowing of the expansive love within it. Very well constructed words for a reason. They're co-creative words with the source. They're intended not just to be spoon-fed truth, like data, but for beings to help provide the experience a person can have to know for themselves what these other beings do. It's a design to request the co-creative cooperation of beings who not only know how to remove implants and subconscious stuff, but how to set a person free to remember all they've been made to forget. They know how to do it, but it takes the conscious co-creative cooperation of each individual. Because the beings I work with are not tyrants. They won't do things to people like that. The person has to co-create and give permission for them to work with them. So it's like that. And when you work with the hue, one thing I can recommend to everybody is, whatever you do, however afraid you might be, if you ever get terrorized, you think spooks are in the house or hidden government's going to come after you or anything like that, send the hue out for their well-being right then and there before it gets too deep. And it'll shut that off. The hue will shut down that negative thing that's starting to play on your nervous system. And then you'll have a deeper serenity of being and an awareness to see truth for yourself. If you can catch it before it gets too deep, before a primary subconscious thing takes over and you're just in the negative fear and all that until it plays and shuts off, you can learn to master it, to control it. And eventually these subconscious things are disintegrated, neutralized, so that the person can be free of such negative influences. That's about it. But it takes the inspiration of energy has to come up in a person so they're motivated to work with it. No savior's going to come by and wave a magic wand and just give it all to them, because they just go out and abuse it without even realizing they're doing it. Cause them more harm. So they want a person, people I work with want people to become consciously aware of what the right use for all energy and imagination really is. And that's simple. Endeavor to create whatever you do for the good of all life everywhere. None accepted. On any planet, in any arena, on any level. That's one of the greatest truths right there. That's divine love. That's respect for all life. And we all have the ability to do this. Each and every one of us do.
Correct. Okay, good night.
Good night. I'll stop the recording.